Morning Answer continues next, but first to check on the weather forecast from the National Weather Service.
A winter storm warning in effect this morning. Morning snow 1 to 3 inches, otherwise cloudy, high today 20. Clear, very cold tonight with the low at 2. Partly sunny, cold day tomorrow, the high 21. Sun and cloud Sunday, the high 29. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. It was iconic in Chicago. Remember the Playboy building? Now back to its previous name, the Palmolive building.
I remember Warner Saunders used to tell me he would sneak in there at night. And then he snuck out. He's like, that's not what I was expecting, but he never pontificated on that.
Well, there is a new 10-part docuseries on A&E called The Secrets of Playboy. It began this week. Here's a trailer.
There was a side of Playboy that nobody wants to talk about.
He was an advocate for sexual freedom and the First Amendment.
And he really did believe he owned these women.
There's some things that never saw the light of day.
I didn't realize that getting into the Playboy world was a dangerous choice.
He didn't want people to know what was really going on.
I have extensive electronic equipment in the house, which includes videotape equipment. Sometimes things happen in the bedroom.
It was a beautiful world. It looked that way, but it was really ugly.
When you get someone that powerful, anything could happen. Anything.
I wouldn't trade places with anyone else in the world.
His legacy should comprise the whole story.
The people who are really there, they're the ones who know the real truth.
Ooh. One former Hef girlfriend, Sandra Theodore, claims that Hefner would tape women all the time. He mentioned that extensive electronic equipment. Tape women all the time, oftentimes without their permission. He would also tape athletes and celebrities having sex with other women without their knowledge. Mm-hmm. He eventually, he admitted, she says, to an interest in snuff films and even bestiality. He allegedly once made porn star Linda Lovelace perform oral sex on a German Shepherd while he and others watched.
He loved blondes. And remember the last couple that he was married to were those blonde twins from Joliet?
Okay, you're just going to gloss over what I just said?
I know. The bestiality thing is absolutely disgusting. And that's what Linda Lovelace said. Yeah, he made me do that.
Yeah. Hello, Caligula. Oh, but he was this celebrated, feted raconteur, Renaissance man, and so on and so forth, and it was all glam. Gosh, imagine Hollywood not upholding standards of moral rectitude, even as they lecture the nation on said topics. Also, we understand from the daughter of his longtime doctor that he had a long-running gay affair, I guess, with his doctor, too. So, nothing was off limits for Hef. What a wonderful empire. Yes. He had a TV, right, those two twins. He had a TV show with them. Hollywood facilitated this exploitation that is now being complained about in this 10-part docuseries. How should we assess this reveal by A&E? For more on the topic, pleased to be joined by Christian Toto, founder of Hollywood in Toto, TOTO.com, HollywoodInToto.com. The right take on entertainment, award-winning film critic and author of the just-released Virtue Bombs, How Hollywood Got Woke and Lost Its Soul. Maybe they lost their soul, some at least in Hollywood, well before they went woke. Christian Toto, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
How about the Playboy that was celebrated to now a Playboy empire that's being vilified? And oh, by the way, I have also saw a report that Christy Hefner, his daughter, who took over the business, she found a bunch of revenge porn that she claims she's now destroyed.
It's not horribly surprising. I think anyone with such power and such wealth and such sort of celebrity clout, they can do almost anything in our culture, and that's I think that's beyond Hollywood, including Hollywood. But Hollywood is very good at looking past their moral flaws and getting on a soapbox. They seem particularly expert at that kind of activity.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting if this would have come out, if these women now speaking out would have spoke out while Hefner was still alive. Would he have been given something akin to the Harvey Weinstein treatment? Or is the Harvey Weinstein fall from grace, is that just sort of Hollywood covering its tracks from its past and present sins?
Yeah, I think it's more of the latter. The Me Too movement and Weinstein's fall was so fascinating because it seemed like something genuine and heartfelt and a cultural awakening that we all could appreciate. And then, as I mentioned in the book, what happened next was it became political. It became we will choose the people that we hound for allegations, and we will choose the people that we ignore for allegations. Hollywood can't kind of get its story straight.
I wanted to get your take on another controversy du jour. That's Neil Young, Rogan, and Spotify. I mean, boy, what a surprise. Spotify exercised the courage to side with the guy they paid $100 million for his podcast.
Well, you say that, and I get what you're saying as far as the financial situation, but we've seen other companies buckle when it wouldn't make sense financially to do so. When ABC cut ties with Roseanne for that awful tweet, they lost a lot of money because that show is a cash cow. And they said, we will prefer to kind of get rid of her from our network than keep making a lot of money. And I know they kind of reconfigured the show, but it was never the same. So I don't always think with show business today that it's about money, money, money. It sometimes the virtue signaling will leap that. So I don't, Spotify is standing tall now, but I don't think that's a guarantee.
No, well, and I mean, and also too, it's an assessment. I mean, who under 70 is talking about Neil Young's folk rock these days? So I mean, what do they have to lose by going against Neil Young?
Well, but then Barry Manilow, I think this morning has taken Neil Young's side. I think he's going to be removing his music from Spotify. I know Peter Frampton sent out a tweet in the last 24 hours supporting.
Oh, Christian,
did we lose Christian? Oh, sorry, you cut out there for a second. You cut out there for talking about Peter Frampton. Sorry.
Yeah, I just saw a tweet from him basically supporting Neil Young. So I don't think this is over. I think this is an ongoing story. And if you see more and more artists take Neil Young's side, I don't know. Spotify may buckle.
All right, Christian, are you keeping a list of actors and musicians and people that have been canceled by the cancel culture?
I mean, it's what I cover all the time, and it's obviously covered in my book. So yeah, that's a particular interest for me, and how they recover or how they don't recover sometimes.
Well, I can't even remember the Roseanne Barr tweet. Can you help me out?
Yeah, so she tweeted a comparison between Valerie Jarrett, who is black and from the Obama administration, comparing her to someone from the Planet of the Apes. So that's a horrible tweet on its surface. She claimed she didn't know that Valerie Jarrett was a black person. You could go back and forth on that. The bottom line, it was a pretty gross tweet. It was racist in nature, potentially, assuming that you take it at face value. She apologized immediately, but then was basically kicked out of her own show, end of show business. I mean, she hasn't made any sort of comeback, and that was 3 or 4 years ago.
Was there anybody accused of doing something wrong that you think they were wrongly accused, if that makes sense, or canceled wrongly?
Yeah, I mean, Gina Carano is a perfect example. I mean, she sent out some tweets and social messages, which you could agree with, you could disagree with, not the end of the world. And Disney fired her and said that it had an anti-Semitic nature to it. It didn't at all. You could go Google the whole information. So there are plenty of times that people get canceled for unfair reasons. I think she may be the most extreme example. And just for comparison's sake, Bette Midler sends awful, horrible, terrible tweets all the time. She's been cheering on violence against Senator Rand Paul, for example, and nothing happens to her. So that's why this whole woke crusade is inauthentic and I'm being kind, because there's no consistency there.
Yeah, I mean it's right. So before I suggest something, give us your sort of calculus, the Hollywood calculus for whether or not you get targeted for elimination or not.
If anyone does, you mean?
Yeah. What's the standard? I mean, why you use Bette Midler versus Gina Carano. I could throw out somebody nobody ever heard of other than his affiliation with Mumford and Sons. Mumford and Sons guitarist. He gets banned. He has to issue an apology because he wrote a tweet in support of Andy Ngo's book about Antifa. I mean, just ridiculous stuff. So why does Mumford and Sons guitarist? Why do they target him? Why do they target Gina Carano, who's not a super well-known actress, and they leave Bette Midler alone?
It's often about politics. Gina Carano appeared to be right of center and or just poking the bear, and by bear I mean the narrative. Andy Ngo is loathed by the left because he exposes what Antifa is all about. So those are the qualifications there. Again, it's not always consistent because sometimes the woke mob will pursue liberal people. Tina Fey has been attacked in the past. Will Ferrell has as well. Amy Schumer. So those are sort of very traditionally left-of-center stars who still get attacked by the cancel culture mob, but it's not as ferocious, it's not as intense. And, so that's you have to kind of put that into the calculation.
Is Hollywood moving shop, or slowly but surely? I saw this week producer Ryan Kavanaugh is leaving Los Angeles, and you're hearing more and more high-profile L.A. types, Hollywood big shots like this Kavanaugh character, saying that he founded that video-sharing app Triller, I guess, saying, I can't be here anymore, and it's not because of the politics, but it's because of the result of the politics, which is, for example, the lawlessness.
Yeah, I think that will happen to a certain degree. I still think L.A. is going to be an epicenter of sorts for Hollywood. But yeah, Joe Rogan famously left for Texas, and others have as well. At the end of the day, if you're not safe, it doesn't matter how woke you are, how politically left of center you are, you might want to kind of get out of Dodge. And I think you'll see some of that in a limited degree.
Well, and that the murder in Beverly Hills of that music producer's wife, Avant, right? That supposedly shook up some of the jet set in Hollywood.
Yeah, and there was a murder of a young woman in a furniture warehouse, which just seemed random and crazy and vicious and got a lot of attention. So there are a lot of different reasons why things happen. I think many people still look past the impact of these policies and remain in these cities and keep voting the way they do vote. So I used to be more optimistic about people kind of waking up and having common sense, whether it's inside or outside of Hollywood. I have less of that now.
You mentioned Me Too movement. We were talking about Hef and Harvey Weinstein. And so where does that stand now, a couple of years removed, and other more pressing leftist political agenda items moving ahead of it? Is the Me Too movement, has there been some sort of paradigm shift in Hollywood with respect to the predation of old men on young women mainly?
I don't know. I hope there has been some change behind the scenes. I certainly think because the focus is on it more, that if someone was in trouble, facing that kind of situation, they'd be more open to speak out because there'd be more people willing to listen and protect them. But, in recent years, we've seen a group called Time's Up, which was an organization meant to help women like that. And a lot of these celebrities were rallying behind it, throwing thousands and thousands of dollars behind it. And that organization, it's still there, but it basically reassembled because it was so fraudulent and so pathetic and so corrupt. I mean, they were helping Governor Cuomo in New York with his messaging. So, go Google that as well. It's a horrible story. And of course, none of the celebrities who backed that organization have been held accountable, have been really pressed by the media about, hey, why did you back this organization? And then not, make sure they're doing the right thing. So it's just another chapter in Hollywood history.
All right. I mean, since you're an art critic, I got to ask you this too. Are you an Ozark watcher?
I loved the first season, and I started watching season 2, and I just drifted away. And I don't know if it's necessarily the show's fault, or got pulled in different directions. But there's much to admire there for sure.
I love that show.
Amy, have you watched the first 7 episodes of the 4th season, the final season?
I'm on episode 7, so please do not ruin it for me.
No spoiler alerts.
Seriously.
No spoiler alerts. But it's just it seems like one of these patterns too, where these even good shows, most of them, I mean, some can break the mold, but most of them by the 4th or 5th season, it just seems like the writers have lost the plot, because the 4th season of Ozark. I mean, there are just so many plot points that are just so
ridiculous.
Yeah, they're just not credible, and there's just too many gaps. And it almost seems like they didn't really plan this out. They're like, we need to get to this end, and we're going to sort of work backwards to figure it out, rather than like unfurling a story like they did in the first season.
Well, it does happen. Some shows actually get stronger as they go along.
Yep.
But they may be the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to look for the sheriff's car, things like that, right?
Oh, spoiler alert.
Oh, that was in the first episode.
Christian Toto, founder of HollywoodInToto.com, the right take on entertainment, award-winning film critic, author of the just-released Virtue Bombs, How Hollywood Got Woke and Lost Its Soul. Christian, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.